I say to people who say, well, I would like to have done so and so and so. So, well, you could have done it. So, well, I couldn't get out of here.
From The Shawshank Redemption to Million Dollar Baby, Morgan Freeman's legacy shines brighter than Hollywood gold itself. But behind all that success hides a storm few ever saw coming. 7 actors who swapped loyalty for the spotlight and left Freeman questioning everything. These weren't random co-workers. These were people he once trusted, people he called friends. They crossed his line, shattered his trust, and mocked the very respect he's lived by his whole career. And this time, Freeman didn't stay quiet. He spoke up and named every single one of them. When you hear who's on the list, number 7 will have your jaw on the floor. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It helps a ton and only takes a second. Now let's get back to the drama. Eddie Murphy, the comedy that crossed the line. No one could have guessed that the first name on Freeman's private blacklist would be Eddie Murphy. But yep, that's exactly who it was. Insiders say the tension between them never truly cooled down. Their clash didn't come from fame or ego. It came from what Freeman values above all else: respect for the craft. It all went down on the set of Bruce Almighty back in 2003, a film that paired 2 legends with completely opposite energies. Freeman played God, calm, thoughtful, and focused. Murphy? He treated the set like his personal stage. Everything ran smooth for a bit, until it didn't. Within a week, things started falling apart. Murphy showed up late, flipped dialogue without warning, and took over scenes meant to be shared. Crew members remember Freeman staying patient through ruined takes, his face caught between disbelief and quiet exhaustion. But one day, during a serious emotional scene, Murphy cracked a joke right in the middle of the shot, sending the crew into uncontrollable laughter. Freeman didn't join in. He just looked at him and said, "You think this is a comedy? I think it's a story about faith." That quiet line ended their connection for good. Director Tom Shadyac later admitted that Freeman asked for more structure for the rest of filming, keeping his distance from Murphy's wild energy. And when Freeman was asked during the promo tour if he enjoyed working with Murphy, he simply said, "He's talented. That doesn't always mean he listens." After Bruce Almighty hit theaters, Eddie Murphy tried to make peace. He even reached out to Morgan Freeman about doing a sequel. But Freeman didn't hesitate for a second. He turned it down flat. To him, art isn't just entertainment. It's discipline, passion, and respect. And in his eyes, Murphy had turned something sacred into a full-on circus. Mel Gibson, When Genius Goes Toxic. Now this one will blow your mind. The second name on Freeman's unspoken blacklist, Mel Gibson. Yep, the same guy he once called a brilliant visionary behind the camera. At first, there was nothing but admiration between them. Freeman saw Gibson as a fearless storyteller, the creative force that gave the world Braveheart. He once said Gibson was a man who makes courage look cinematic. But that respect didn't last long. Around the mid-2000s, the two started discussing a historical film that Gibson was set to direct. Everything seemed promising, until Freeman read the early draft of the script. He found sections laced with religious bias and heavy political tones. Staying professional, he asked Gibson if those parts were going to stay in. Gibson's answer hit hard: "It's my truth." That was the breaking point. Freeman quietly pushed the script aside and later said, "A story isn't yours when it belongs to history." From that moment, the friendship was done. Then came Gibson's public scandals, the leaked tapes, the slurs, the drunken outbursts that shocked Hollywood. Freeman didn't blast him in the media. Instead, he simply vanished from Gibson's circle without a word. Producer Brian Grazer later confirmed that Freeman turned down 2 Gibson-led projects after that, including one that could have reunited Oscar-winning legends. "Morgan believes film should heal, not divide," Grazer said quietly. And when a reporter asked Freeman in 2010 if he'd ever work with Gibson again, his response cut deep. "Surgical brilliance without character is dangerous intelligence." Since then, Freeman has avoided every film festival, award event, or project tied to Gibson's name. To Freeman, filmmaking should bring people together, not tear them apart. Producer Brian Grazer once said quietly, "Morgan believes film should heal, not divide." And when a reporter in 2010 asked Freeman if he'd ever consider working with Mel Gibson again, his answer was razor sharp. "Surgical brilliance without character is dangerous intelligence." Since that moment, Freeman has kept his distance, refusing every event, festival, or project tied to Gibson's name. Kevin Costner, the box office misstep. Third on Freeman's silent blacklist is a man once crowned Hollywood royalty, Kevin Costner. On screen, their chemistry looked flawless, but behind the camera, it was a slow-motion implosion of egos and control. The tension started the very moment they began filming Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves in 1991. Freeman signed on expecting a true creative partnership, a balanced mix of veteran wisdom and rising stardom. But what he walked into was an all-out power struggle. Costner, fresh off his dances with Wolves' Oscar glory, came in ready to command everything, every scene, every shot, every decision. Crew members recalled Freeman waiting for hours, while Costner argued tiny details with the director. To Freeman, every delay felt like a slap of disrespect. By week 3, all polite talk had vanished, replaced by pure silence on set. Costner's triple role as actor, producer, and self-appointed unofficial director constantly clashed with Freeman's calm, disciplined rhythm. Freeman finally snapped one day and pulled Costner aside. He looked him straight in the eye and said, "You hired a director, let him direct." That one line spread through the production crew like wildfire. And while the movie went on to become a massive box office hit, those smiles and interviews hid something much darker, a deep resentment that never healed. During a BBC appearance, Costner credited the movie's success to sheer American vision. Freeman later called that moment the day Costner erased everyone else from the story. After that, the two never worked together again. Freeman reportedly turned down multiple Costner projects afterward, saying they were reminders of unfinished business. Will Smith, the charm that calculated. Fourth on Freeman's list is none other than Will Smith. And this one isn't about an on-set explosion. It's about something colder and quieter. Freeman once described Smith privately as a man who smiles while measuring the room. Their relationship started with mutual respect. Freeman admired Smith's drive and discipline, while Smith looked up to Freeman as a mentor and Hollywood icon. But over time, Freeman began to sense something different, what he later called calculated sincerity. It started subtly. During the award seasons of the mid-2000s, Smith would constantly mention Freeman in interviews, praising him as a mentor, a role model, even a father figure in the industry. But to Freeman, the praise started feeling less like admiration and more like strategy. At first, Freeman genuinely appreciated Will Smith's words, the compliments, the praise, even the comparisons. Smith would often say things like, "He's the kind of artist I hope to become." It sounded sincere, until Freeman realized the friendship existed mostly in public. Behind the cameras, Smith used their bond to boost his image, all while ignoring Freeman's advice whenever money or fame was involved. He'd ask for Freeman's input on scripts, nod thoughtfully, then pick the flashiest option if it came with a bigger paycheck. Producer Jerry Bruckheimer once revealed that Freeman confided something striking. He said, "Will's acting every moment, even off camera." One night at a charity gala in Los Angeles, Smith brought Freeman on stage and introduced him to the crowd as "my teacher in patience and performance." The audience applauded, the cameras flashed, but Freeman's smile was thin. Moments later, he slipped out quietly. On the ride home, he told his driver, "I don't teach opportunism." The real breaking point came when Smith ignored Freeman's warning about After Earth. Freeman had told him straight up that the project could damage his credibility, that it was a risky move. But Smith went ahead anyway. And when the movie bombed, just like Freeman predicted, Smith completely ghosted him. No calls, no messages, nothing. Later, Freeman's words hit hard. Will mastered the appearance of depth without ever doing the work to find it. Since then, the two have never worked together again. No collaborations, no shared stages, not even friendly nods at public events. Charlie Sheen, the idol who fell apart. Landing at number 5 is Charlie Sheen. Believe it or not, this one started with pure admiration. Freeman once saw in Sheen a spark of raw, unfiltered talent, the kind that could have redefined an entire generation. But that spark burned out fast. By the late 1990s, any trace of respect Freeman had for Sheen had vanished beneath scandal, addiction, and chaos. Everything Freeman valued, discipline, focus, respect, Sheen shattered it all. During early talks about working together, Freeman got a front-row seat to the madness. Insiders described it as a circus. Sheen would stroll in late, skip rehearsals, forget lines, and joke his way through serious moments like it was all one big game. Crew members still recall Freeman sitting silently on set, watching Sheen turn every scene into a performance of recklessness. To a man like Freeman, whose background was rooted in stage discipline and professionalism, it felt like betrayal. And then came the 2011 meltdown, Sheen's chaotic public downfall that stopped entire productions cold. Reporters asked Freeman privately what he thought of it, and though he never went public, his reaction said everything without needing a headline. When asked privately about Charlie Sheen's downfall, Freeman didn't sugarcoat a thing. He said coldly, "Talent without discipline is just waste, and waste eventually contaminates everything around it." To him, Sheen had become living proof that charisma without control destroys not only careers, but everyone caught in its orbit. From that moment on, Freeman cut all ties. He never spoke to Sheen again, and never mentioned his name in public. Russell Crowe, the volcano that burned bridges. Sixth on Freeman's list is Russell Crowe, a man known for explosive energy, and not the kind that wins awards. The first time they shared a set, crew members swore they could feel the tension before the cameras even started rolling. Freeman arrived like he always did, calm, prepared, every line etched into memory. Crowe, on the other hand, came in like a thundercloud, barking orders, correcting the director, adjusting lights, and calling it creative energy. To Freeman, it wasn't passion. It was chaos, disguised as genius. Things blew up fast. During one intense scene, Crowe challenged Freeman's interpretation, saying it lacked emotional violence. Freeman looked him dead in the eye and said softly, "Emotion doesn't need to scream to be felt." Crowe smirked, redid the scene his own way, but the director sided with Freeman, and that's when it all went downhill. From that day on, every setup turned into a power struggle. Ridley Scott, who had worked with both men separately, later admitted, "I could sense Morgan's patience slipping. He doesn't raise his voice, but when he stops talking, you know it's over." By week 4, Freeman barely even looked Crowe's way between scenes. The silence between them was louder than any argument. Then came the press tour, where Crowe told a London magazine that younger actors bring more honesty than those who rehearse everything. Fans instantly caught the shade. It was an obvious jab at Freeman. Freeman stayed silent publicly, but insiders later shared his verdict. Russell mistook being difficult for being deep. Since then, there's been no reunion, no handshake, not even a polite red carpet nod between the two. Matt Damon, the student who lost his teacher's respect. Rounding out the list is Matt Damon, and this one cuts deep because it's not fueled by ego or betrayal, but quiet disappointment. When Invictus began filming in 2009, it looked like a dream pairing, two Oscar-caliber actors uniting to tell Nelson Mandela's story, built on mutual respect and purpose. But behind those professional smiles, things started to chill fast. At first, it was subtle. Damon, riding high off The Bourne Ultimatum and The Departed, showed up brimming with confidence, maybe too much. Crew members whispered that he'd stride ahead of Freeman on set, offer unsolicited advice to assistants, and occasionally brush off Freeman's quiet suggestions. One day, Freeman called cut mid-scene to reset the emotional tone. Damon reportedly rolled his eyes, and everyone noticed. Freeman didn't react, didn't raise his voice, he just watched. Days later, during a press interview meant to promote unity on set, Freeman joked, "I had to grow my own beard waiting for that young man's ego to catch up." The audience laughed, but the warmth in his tone was gone. It wasn't humor, it was truth, wrapped in grace. After Invictus, the distance between Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon never closed. The two men shook hands at premieres, smiled for the cameras, and delivered the kind of red carpet charm that fooled even the sharpest eyes. But behind those polite gestures, the warmth had long vanished. Freeman wasn't one to hold grudges loudly. He believed silence could speak louder than confrontation. And in this case, that silence was deafening. Friends close to both actors noticed the shift. Freeman, usually patient and generous with advice, stopped taking Damon's calls. He'd once shared scripts, notes, and insights like a mentor guiding a student through the art of storytelling. But after Invictus, the mentorship froze in time. Damon, meanwhile, never publicly addressed the tension, but insiders said he regretted letting ego cloud what could have been one of the most meaningful friendships in his career. For Freeman, the pain wasn't about one argument or a bruised ego. It was about something deeper. Each betrayal, from Murphy's chaos to Gibson's arrogance, from Smith's manipulation to Crowe's temper, had chipped away at his faith in Hollywood camaraderie. Damon's arrogance was simply the last straw. He had given decades of his life to an industry built on illusion, and these experiences reminded him just how fragile real respect could be in a world that thrives on image. By the early 2000s, Freeman began turning down collaborations with actors he didn't fully trust. Directors said he'd quietly request a cast list before signing on, making sure no familiar names from his unspoken list were attached. He wasn't bitter, he was careful. To him, the art had to be clean, free from politics, ego, and fake friendship. Despite all the drama, Freeman's reputation only grew stronger. Fans saw him as unshakable, the wise voice of Hollywood who never bowed to chaos. But those close to him knew. Every scar told a story. He'd once said in a private conversation, "You can forgive a man and still choose not to sit at his table." That was his philosophy now. Quiet distance, calm dignity, no second chances for disrespect. On the surface, he was still the same Morgan Freeman, graceful, charming, and endlessly professional. But behind that calm voice was a man who had seen too much betrayal dressed as friendship. He no longer believed in Hollywood families or loyalty built on convenience. When asked years later in an interview about working with young stars again, Freeman simply smiled and said, "Talent is everywhere, but humility is rare." The reporter laughed, but his eyes didn't. Freeman wasn't joking, he'd lived it. And so, the man whose voice carried wisdom across generations walked his own path, quiet, focused, and unbothered. Not angry, not bitter, just wiser. Because in the end, Morgan Freeman didn't need revenge or validation. His silence had already said everything. As the years rolled on, Morgan Freeman's distance from Hollywood's chaos became part of his legend. He wasn't the man who stormed off sets or threw shade in interviews. He was the one who quietly drew his line and never crossed it again. That silence, that calm refusal to play the fame game, spoke louder than any scandal ever could. People often wondered if he still held grudges, if those old wounds, Eddie Murphy's recklessness, Mel Gibson's arrogance, Kevin Costner's ego, Will Smith's insincerity, Russell Crowe's temper, and Matt Damon's pride still burned beneath the surface. But those who truly knew Freeman said the opposite. He had let it all go, not because he forgot, but because he finally understood. Peace was worth more than power. By the mid-2000s, Freeman focused on projects that carried meaning, not noise. Films that inspired, uplifted, and healed. Stories rooted in truth, not drama. Crew members said he showed up every day with quiet energy, working like a man who still believed in the magic of cinema, even after seeing its dark side. He'd arrive early, greet every crew member by name, and leave without a single complaint. That's who he was, a professional to the end, but his boundaries stayed firm. Whenever his name came up alongside any of the 7 who had crossed him, his answer was always the same. "I wish them well." Simple, dignified, closed. No bitterness, no gossip. Just a clean break from the noise that once surrounded him. In interviews, journalists tried to bait him into revisiting old tensions, but Freeman never took the bait. Instead, he'd flash that knowing smile and steer the conversation back to art, life, and purpose. He once said, "The measure of a man isn't in who he forgives, it's in what he chooses to carry." And Morgan chose peace, every time. That's what makes his story powerful, not just the awards or the blockbusters, but the strength to rise above betrayal without losing his grace. In a world built on ego, he became the rare example of restraint. His name alone carried the weight of wisdom, a reminder that real power isn't about shouting, it's about silence that demands respect. So now, as Freeman's legacy stands untouchable, his journey feels like a lesson written in gold. Protect your peace, trust your craft, and never let fame rewrite your values. And if you've made it this far into his untold story, thank you for watching. What do you think of Morgan Freeman's quiet strength and the choices he made along the way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive into Hollywood's hidden stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.